Better cameras take better photos, right? So why do some of my favorite images come from cameras that, honestly, kind of suck? So today I've grabbed 5 different photos from 5 different cameras to answer one question. Does the camera matter as much as we think? And we're starting with this. Honestly, it's just kind of boring. And it makes sense because it was taken with a cheap bridge camera. But what if the camera isn't the problem? First, we're going to do some basic corrections. Nothing crazy, just bringing this image to a usable state. Now I'm going to bring this crop in. The bird here, that's what I want to draw your eye towards. And now I'm going to throw in a preset. Not because that's going to be the final image, but because it gives me a fantastic starting point. This is really, really close to what I want out of this image, but it's not quite there yet. Now, I want this to feel much more moodier, but not so highly contrasted. So we're gonna up the exposure just a smidge, and then we're gonna bring the shadows up just a little bit. Ooh, this is feeling really good. Holy crap. That is so much better than the original photo that we got. And out of this piece of shit camera. You wanna know the crazy part though? That's a JPEG. That's not a raw file, that is a JPEG. And it looks that fucking good. Damn! So if a cheap bridge camera can do that, what happens if we try to go with something completely different? This is straight out of camera. This is using a drone. It already looks kind of cool, but I think this is where most people get a little bit tricked. Because a cool angle doesn't mean a cool photo. You have to work it. We're gonna follow the same steps as before. We're gonna add some corrections. That is a lot more digestible with those corrections. Now we need to figure out what the mood is that we're trying to go for. What is the image trying to tell us? This feels like how it was on the day. See what I mean? Presets are used as a starting point, not as the end all be all. I'm just gonna bring down the exposure just a touch. Bring up the highlights just a little bit. All I'm doing now is separating the subject from the background using masks. I think that we've taken this image to the next level. If we look at the before and after, before, after. How much better is that? We never would have gotten that final result if we didn't figure out what we were trying to pull out of the image. It feels like the day that we were there. Okay, maybe that only worked because the subject was so simple. What happens if the camera already gives us something interesting? Next, we have an image from an iPhone. It's got great dynamic range, it's got tons of detail, it's got everything the modern cameras give you. But here's the thing, none of that automatically makes this an interesting image. Because more detail doesn't show you where to look. More sharpness doesn't create mood, and better tech doesn't create intention. Honestly, like this image doesn't need much. I don't even think I'm gonna crop it. Yeah, that's it. That's all that really needs to be done. That's the corrections done. Then we're gonna pick a preset. Honestly, Bella is a great starting point for this image. Now this is where we really start to dive into it. The leading lines are already doing a decent amount to bring us all the way up to the top here. We're trying to darken the bits that don't matter and draw your eye all the way up the image. A good camera will give you all the information you need, but it doesn't tell you what matters. Look at how much life has been brought into this image. This feels so much more inviting, like you want to go there. All right, look, maybe the cheap camera argument falls apart when we use something modern. So let's try the complete opposite. This came out of this camera. This is the S5800. This camera is 20 years old. It shouldn't be a good camera. Can we really pull something usable out of this? This photo already has something that's fighting in its corner. Emotionally, not technically. So this dude is alone. That is what we're trying to pull out of the image. How do we make this feel lonely? Just repeating the same steps as before, as well as masking out the subject, just to separate him from the background. That creates a sense of isolation. Look, it's still the same crappy camera, it's still a JPEG image, but we've turned this from a photo into a scene. And by now you can probably see the pattern already. This is just a regular photo. There's nothing crazy about this image. There's nothing that sticks out. Just apart from the composition, your eye is immediately drawn to the Nilex plastic sign. So let's do the same thing as before. I think this is kind of where people get confused about editing. They think that editing means that you've got a bad image. But the reality is it's not a bad image because you're editing it. It's why presets exist. They're not there to give you the final image. They're there to go, okay, here's a great starting point as to how I want this to feel. If we look at the before here, this looks like an image that anyone could have taken. But now, with the edit, we've turned this into a scene. And I think this is the part that photography gets wrong. We spend so much time chasing better gear. We hope that these things will make us better photographers. Better cameras don't teach taste. They don't teach story. They don't teach emotion. What you decide to do with it, that's what creates the art. And if you want a starting point for building looks like these, I'll leave the cinematic starter pack in a link down below.